more mustard just isn't going to do it. And so, I didn't disagree. It was not good. He said, I want to call a flight attendant. She rings the flight attendant button. She comes. She says, sir, may I help you? And he says, yes, you can help me. He grabs his plate and hands it right up to her and says, this is a bad sandwich. She puts it under her. Bad sandwich, bad sandwich, bad sandwich. Well, I'd like to say that nation after nation tries all of this stuff. Bad systems, bad systems. Now, there is one system that works with a caveat. One system, only one system. So when we go and we visit poor countries, we can hardly wait to share the free market, because the free market capitalism is the only system that will create the right set of incentives to get countries out of poverty. And so if somebody doesn't share them with them, they'll never get it then, and they'll always be poor. So it's very, very, very critical. But there is a caveat. And the caveat is this when it comes to free market and capitalism. We found that poor people in this world have some housing, but they don't have a title to that housing. The poor people in this world grow some small crops, but they don't have a deed to those crops. Poor people in this world have some small businesses, but they don't have articles of incorporation. What am I saying? What am I saying? They don't have property rights. They don't have property rights. Now, do you and I ever worry about property rights? No. Why? Because Thomas Jefferson worried about it for us. That's why. Thomas Jefferson, 1787, said, look, if we're going to diffuse government power, we've got to go to private ownership. If we go to private property and private ownership, people need verifiable addresses. You just can't attach value to a non-verifiable. So this country has to be surveyed. So starting in 1787, they start surveying the country, and so it's just magical to fly across the United States from one end of the East Coast to the West, or either way, and look out the window and see the miles. There they are, ranges, sections, townships, just exactly the way Thomas Jefferson wanted. In other words, verifiable addresses. In other words, creating a situation where people, like my grandparents, come from Russia, they land at Ellis Island, they're shipped to Flint, Michigan to work on the dairy farms for General Motors, which produced a lot of Chryslers in that area. And my grandparents said, we hate this. We're not dairy farmers. We don't know anything about dairy farming. Well, what are you? Sugar beets. Oh, back to Napa, Idaho. Sugar beets. That's what we know how to farm, sugar beets. So they put them on a train to Denver, Colorado. Grandparents get out of the train, wander along the South Platte River for almost a half year, but now winter is setting in. And they're about 90 miles from Denver in a little town called Hillerose, about population 15. And they found, kind of out on a piece of land, an abandoned pig house. What's a pig? Why not? The abandoned pigsty. I like that. That's good. Thank you. A pigsty. And winter's coming on, so Grandma and Grandpa lived in that pigsty. First winter in Colorado. And let me tell you, almost didn't make it. Thank goodness it was not an extra cold winter. Or if it would have been, no way would they have got through that. But they made it. But then someone says to my grandpa, Alex, your next step is, you have a little garden here, and you put a little fence around it to keep the animals out. But you got to get title to this. Well, how do I do that? You go into Section 16. Section 16 everywhere in the United States. I don't care if you're in Ohio. I don't care if you're in Oklahoma. You go to Section 16, and that's where the county assessor is. That's where you get titles. That's where you get property rights. And Grandpa goes, and Grandpa says, I've only got $4. That's all right. I'll bet that you can buy 4 acres. Sure enough, he bought 4 acres for $4. He's now got a title. He's now got a title. And now let's run Grandpa's life all the way to age 101. That's when he died, at 101 years old. How much land did he have? 320 acres, which is a half a section. 1 mile by 1 mile is 640 acres. Grandpa had just half of that, 320 acres. So he could get collateralized. The point is, poor people in this world, they maybe have even free markets. Look at markets are not magic. Markets happen. If government gets out of the way, markets will happen. Great. So I love the name of what Ralph, the Center for the Study of Market Alternatives. Market. So the world's pretty comfortable with markets. But if they don't have property rights, they can't get collateralized, they can't build up wealth, and therefore they cannot make capitalism work. And so it's so important that when we meet with leaders, we explain this. That look, as we had the great privilege of being with the Prime Minister of Albania and explain to him that you've got to get verifiable addresses and you've got to get Albania surveyed. And he did that. He did that. After we left, he sent people to Phoenix, Arizona, Sky Harbor, and we met for a number of days. It was just great to see Albanians saying, hey, I'll listen to what you guys have to say about property rights and about ownership, about private ownership, about John Locke saying that private ownership is the bulwark of freedom, and freedom is the mainspring of economic prosperity. So we talk about freedom. Freedom is wonderful. Freedom is terrific. And the free market is even more terrific. The free market is a miraculous instrument of communication. The free market is a stupendous transmitter of ideas while determining value. The free market is like a galactic bathroom scale where it's weighing the supply and demand decisions of millions and millions of people. It is an absolute joy to step into a grocery store like Albertsons or Costco or a store like that that has 50,000 items and just see what a person from a communist country, it takes their breath away. In this very town, Nampa, the premier of the Soviet Union was here, and he saw the airplanes out here parked and said, who owns those? Well, private farmers. Private farmers have airplanes? He couldn't believe it. And then he steps in an Albertsons store and he almost has a heart attack. 50,000 items. Now, here's the interesting thing about those 50,000 items. Is that only God can make a tree, but only man can make a pencil. But wait, is there one man that can make? No, there's not 10, there's not 50. Barry, come on, come on, no, let's start thinking. Look, a pencil, this is made of cedar. So you go into the forest and you cut down cedar trees. That's heavy kind of lumber. You get that heavy lumber into trucks and then trucks into trains, the sidecars, and then try to get it to the sawmill. And think of the technology and hard work and chains and pulleys and caterpillars and horsepower that goes in just to get the cedar wood into the factory to cut slats. And maybe you haven't thought about a pencil being octagonish. But so they cut 8 slats and then 8 more, and they groove them and groove them and groove them. And so this is put together with slat after slat after slat, put in the groove, and then with paste held together. So just the wood part of the pencil is just incredibly complicated. You can't believe it. Yeah, look at the little metal little brass. Ah, well, no problem with brass. Oh, really? No problem with brass. All you have to do is go to Butte, Montana, and look at a copper mine and see those tractors working down there, massive caterpillars and all the rest, or go to Santiago, Chile, and see 2 miles deep, they're mining copper, and you think that's easy, and you go down there, and you find tractors that have tires that are 20 feet tall. I mean, the tractors are as big as a 2-story building, and the technology that it takes to get copper, and then bring it out, and then turn it into brass with zinc, and then find it and there it is. You think, and so So whether we're talking about the lead, or we're talking about the wood, or we're talking about an eraser, give me a break. It's not that rubberized, it's factus that they find in all parts of East Asia, where they find most of the factus. They will boil it in with sulfur chloride, and then you have an eraser. But what's the point? The point is that 1 million people touch this thing before you walk into Albertsons, pay a dime, price is what you pay, value is what you get. There were 1 million minds, sweat, toil, brains, heartache that went into the making of this pencil, and we get to go buy it for a dime. That's why we say the free market is miraculous. That's why we say the free market is stupendous. That's why we say freedom is the mainspring of economic prosperity. That's why we say freedom is like a virus, which there is no antidote. That's why we like to say that freedom is a country's best investment. And so when we deal with countries around the world and talk to them, we do the very best we can to explain the free market and how it works and what you have to do. The best we can do as far as them getting property rights, make sure that there's property ownership, because private property is really the bulwark of freedom. And we get to talk about this marvelous thing called freedom and how great it is, but can we keep it? But we not only worry about can our poor country get it and keep it, but can America get it and keep it? Because we don't do the best of jobs in the world of training up our grade school, junior high, or high school kids, and our college kids, that they come to understand that the very essence of this is freedom. The very guts of all of this that we're talking about is more freedom, more bread, more freedom, more per capita income. All you have to do is, say, the mid-'80s land in Berlin, and here's West Berlin, vibrant with economic activity. West Berlin's so exciting. And then you come through Checkpoint Charlie, a wall. And now you're East Berlin. Gray, drab, not many goods on the shelves, not many cars on the streets. Back through Checkpoint Charlie, vibrant. Wait! These are all Germans. This is all one city. Why such a marked contrast between West Berlin and East Berlin? Bingo! Freedom, that's why. Free markets, that's why. And North Korea, South Korea, satellites flying around the world, taking a picture of the world at night. And so you look at Korea at night, South Korea lit up like a Christmas tree. North Korea as dark as the ace of spades. No lights, no electricity, no well-being, no people prospering, and nobody flourishing. Not at all. And then back to South Korea, flourishing. Why? Freedom. So we need CSMA. We need Northwest Nazarene College. We need places like that that will truly be teaching private ownership and freedom and markets. That will be teaching that if we let those go, we lose it all. If we can gain and hold those things, we lose it. Mandy and I's best friend does signing. I just love this, don't you? Oh, this is just so sweet. We have a friend in Arizona, Sheila Boxberger. She signs for Beth Moore. So she travels throughout the United States, and I just sit in the front row and just watch her. She's singing as fast as I'm singing. Thank you, sweetie. That's, we needed a break though, right? Well, there's no question how important the market is, and freedom is, and free markets and private ownership. But there's also no question about how important our faith and religion is. See, without faith, I'm not positive that freedom can make it. Without the free market, I know for a fact that economies cannot get out of poverty. So when we visit someone in Haiti, look at, as long as you practice voodooism, I can guarantee you something. Your country will be in poverty forever. Why? Why? As an economist. Because voodooism is is anti-growth at every phase, whereas Christianity is pro-growth and pro-progress. But voodooism is progress resistant. You can meet a Muslim or a Hindu and look them in the eye and say, the problem here is this, that Hinduism, okay, I'll stick with Hinduism since I said it. Hinduism is progress resistant. When it was time for the Indians from India to build railroads under British tutelage, and they sent over 10,000 wheelbarrows. Nope, we're not going to use 10,000 wheelbarrows. We're going to use baskets on our head. Our parents, our grandparents did it that way, and we are going to do it that way. Now, folks, when you're against the wheel, you're progress resistant. See, Prime Minister Singh can travel the world, come back to India, and say this. Listen, I've been to Silicon Valley, California, United States. And Indians from India are the richest demographic group in Silicon Valley. I've been to Cape Town, South Africa. Indians from India are the richest demographic group. I've been to Kenya, Africa, and Indians from India are creating about 70% of the wealth in Kenya. I come back to India, and we're all poor. What's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture is Hinduism is progress resistant. Folks, when you're against the wheel, that's bad enough, but what if you don't educate your girls? It's crazy. That's crazy. No, that's progress resistant when you don't educate your girls. It's progress resistant when you can't buy into the wheel. It's progress resistant when saying, well, listen, pal, you were born in that caste, and you just stay there, and you'll be there the rest of your life. And in America, none of us think that way. Because you think through your kids, think through the grandkids, think through the grandkids. That's for you, that's great. But maybe I took that too far. Yeah, maybe I took great too far. But the fact of the matter is, look at our kids. And so any of us that are worried about this generation, we should, because they don't know what they don't know, but by golly, what they do know, I mean, it is a very, very different environment now to be teaching at the university as I do at Grand Canyon in Phoenix, as I did at Boise State for 13 years. Students now are sitting all with their tablets, and they are fact-checking just everything you say. And when you say that we've lost 1 million people in our wars, they know the exact number, and if they'll raise their hand and say, no, it's 1.1 million, it's not 1 million, it's 1.1. All right, good enough, because I don't argue with them. So they are all locked into their screens, locked into their telephones, locked into this, and you really begin to wonder. And here's why I wonder so much. Because when Mandy and I lived in Bozeman, Montana for 6 years, we were in a home fellowship, and there were 6 couples. And just recently I talked to Dr. John Heaterts there in Bozeman, Montana. I said, John, are the other 5 couples, I know you and Lois are still married, are they still married? All 6 couples married. Now we come to Boise, Idaho, and right sitting here in the first few rows are members of a home fellowship that Mandy and I were in for 13 years. and all marriage is intact. And you just say, God, thank you. Because it's not easy. And I've been married 55 years. Ask her. Ask her what it must be like to marry. I thank God for her, that she can put up with me. And I thank God for my friends. Well, I wouldn't hesitate a minute getting them cornered and start lecturing. Shut up! Sit down! Listen! Hours. We'd get in the car, man, they would say, honey, do you feel like everybody had a chance? I think they did. Do you? No. As a matter of fact. Sweetheart, there were people there that had to go to the bathroom. And they couldn't get out. You had them cornered. So, marriage, easy? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? But as an economist, here's what I know. As an economist, 25% of men kiss their wives goodbye when they leave the house. But 95% of men kiss their houses goodbye when they leave their wives. It makes a lot of sense. Hang in there and stick with it. And stick with it. It also makes lots of sense for kids to come through Northwest Nazarene, to come through other kinds of education, where they will commit to lives of ministry and lives of spiritual growth, because all you have to do is spend a little time in Haiti and then go right on the same island, go to the Dominican Republic, and it's almost like a different world. Give me a break. The fact of the matter is, Christ makes a difference. Without faith, there is no redemption. With faith, it helps make freedom. The founding fathers were so clear. Freedom requires virtue. Virtue requires freedom, and freedom requires faith. They're all tied together in a wonderful golden triangle, and it was very important. Thomas Jefferson put it right in the Declaration of Independence, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Endowed by our Creator. He didn't say endowed by government, endowed by politics, endowed by wealth, endowed by education. No. He said endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it was Ben Franklin, a deist of all people, who would say 1 month into the Constitutional Convention, listen, God knows every hair in our heads. God knows every sparrow that falls. You don't think God's aware of this Constitutional Convention? You don't think well, then why aren't we on our knees praying every day before we start our meeting? And so, because he asked it, they would open up the Constitutional Convention with prayer. We've done that ever since. We put in God, we trust on our currency. We stand in front of the flag, the United States, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, under God, one country. You know what this pledge is, since I've done that pledge. Anyway, I know it says one nation, indivisible, under God, or something like that, and justice for all. So it's a beautiful pledge. I sure had it cold when I was in 7th and 8th grade. I'll have it as cold today. Well, what a joy it is to get to visit with leaders of countries, help talk through private ownership, help talk through market activity, free markets, help talk through spiritual matters, how important the faith is, how important the virtue is, and how important it is that we can say to each other that God not only loves us, God knows us. Psalm 139, I've searched you and I know you. I know every word that you're going to speak before you've even spoken a word. I know all about your plans. I know all about your actions. I know all about your ways. I know you, and I love you. King David also says, God says, if I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I descend into hell, you're there. If I take the winds of morning and go to the deepest part of the ocean, even there, your arms will hold me and your hands will guide me. Darkness cannot separate me from you, God. It can't, because when I'm with you, I'm with light. Furthermore, you're not only omnipresent, but you're all powerful. You were there when you knit me together in my mother's womb. You know every detail of my life. Every one of us right now has an expiration date right now. For my dad, it was just 2 weeks ago. He was over 100 years old, and he had an expiration date, January 4th, and he passed away. The last song that he wanted to sing was Joy to the World. Not the Elvis edition. the Christmas Carol, that one, Joy to the World. I got to stand by his side and have my hands on him and say, you know, the song I love is Heaven is a wonderful place, full of glory and grace. We say it a lot, didn't we? I'm ready for our Q&A time. Yes, sir.
So I was thinking that so freedom comes with a cost, right? So nations that are like third world and developing, is it right for other countries to help them to get like those costs over so they can develop their freedom?
What, get what over?
Like pay for the cost, or help them like pay the costs? Because I'm thinking freedom is not like free; it comes with like a price.
And what is the question? Say it.
Is it okay for like a country that's to like third world country?
A country right now? You need a country? No.
Oh no, like any country that it's like developing.
Okay.
Would it be okay for like a developed country to help it get the costs over so they can develop its freedom?
It's close-up costs?
Like costs for making freedom, because I'm thinking like maybe being a free country has its costs.
Oh, for sure. Sure. The interesting thing is, though, you know, there are going to be very, very few countries in the world that have to pay that cost with over 1 million lives. America lost over 1 million soldiers in the magnificent fight for freedom. And for the most part, they won't have to do that. The interesting thing is with poor countries, they know markets. Markets have been in their DNA for lots and lots of years. So it's not hard for the free market to understand that we've got to force markets. But it is a little bit more difficult to get to a country and help them understand how they can collateralize, how they can do property rights and get that right. And so there's all kinds of think tanks now that are very available to help them. We with Albania could. It was just very, very exciting. Albania, for example, has a whole set of beaches that are just like Hawaiian beaches. They're just wonderful. White sand, no hotels.